Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you for coming. We are welcoming you in the UCMC, and current our press conference is devoted to the nuclear safety on the Parisian nuclear power plant. What the IAEA does not say. Today's participants are Ms. Victoria Voytsitska, Secretary of the Parliamentary Committee on Fuel and Energy Complex, Ms. Olga Kosharna, an expert on nuclear energy, Ms. Mykhailo Honchar, expert on nuclear safety and nuclear relations, and Volodymyr Omelchenko, Director of Energy and Infrastructure Programs from the Razumkov Centre. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank to the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center for this opportunity to discuss the issues around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, to discuss the International Atomic Energy Agency mission and its report, and to discuss possible scenarios for the future. Since we are considered to be experts, we would like to discuss scenarios, possible scenarios for Ukrainian government, for international community, how to remove all the risks, how to create more secure atmosphere around the nuclear power plant. And today I believe, the best experts. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Olga Kosharna, expert on the nuclear energy sector and nuclear safety. Perhaps Olga will refer to the IAEA report about the visit, about the mission to Zaporizhzhia, which was published yesterday. And perhaps Olga will cover the previous expectations and her assessment of what was eventually stated. Was it profound or was it superficial? What IAEA experts have noticed, what they have not noticed or did not state. And my last question, perhaps, how do you think whether the exact language of the report, did it take into consideration, did it take in the back of the mind the stay of IAEA agents, staff in Zaporizhzhia under occupation? Good afternoon. First of all, I have to state that I did not have any hopes that the commission would be permanent. Then, on the day of the visit, I had big doubts whether they would be allowed to enter the plant. And the third, these were my cautions against the report. So when Mr. Grossi showed this slide with the 7 principal moments which are crucial for the nuclear power plant functioning, having shown the degree of concern, and only the supplies were in green, while the integrity of the parts, while the nuclear safety, while other critical parameters were shown in red. That report contained 56 pages, and I should say that some details about the nuclear power plant even I did not know, because the overall information about current situation in NPP on the Energatom website was not disclosed, and only in Mr. Gross's report I found many things, many parameters. I believe that the greatest victory is that the mission will be permanent, or one member of the mission works in the area on the nuclear materials control, and the second one deals with the safety. Then what is important about Mr. Gross stated that all the previous missions which visited Zaporizhia and PP after Ukrainian and nuclear power plants and other power plants after Chernobyl, after Fukushima, this was action ex post, while while now there are two representatives of the mission which may prevent something, because two hostile parties which are opponents, they publish the information and the data about what was going on, and there was no trust to neither party in the international community. From the memoranda which was published on Sunday and produced by the IAEA mission members in Zaporizhia NPP, it is quite different from what was before. Then big section of the report is devoted to the personnel, Ukrainian personnel, which stays in the plant, and it also shows a picture how Rosatom acts, how it interferes into the everyday work of personnel, and that Ukrainian personnel in the plant works in line with Ukrainian regulations. This conflict between the regulations with which the personnel is governed may result in huge consequences in the area of safety. Personnel continuously work under stress. They are not allowed to contact their families during the shift when they are at work. This harmfully affects the psychological situation of the personnel. And all the countries which commented on the report yesterday, all the countries pointed out to this big problem with personnel, and all the countries made comments in favor of Ukrainian policy as to the nuclear power plant. Then the big issue for me is the safety of the nuclear materials. 1 month special conference devoted to non-proliferation of the nuclear technologies had been held, and Russia had blocked the passage of the resolution, and then 56 countries had written a special opinion, a special document which expressed the opinion that Russia is behaving improperly and in Zaporizhia NPP. Actually, the Russians who accepted the mission in nuclear power plant, he looked like a stand-upper when he started to tell stories about so-called Ukrainian paratroopers who allegedly came in the morning before the IAEA delegation visit, etc. And then they requested for a report. And also Nebenza, Russian minister, has said that I haven't seen the report. Okay, you were not expected to see the report before its publication. Then the mission had registered that there were Russian military vehicles which were parked in the territory of the plant. Then they were not allowed to the nuclear safety bunker because the occupants had turned it into a shelter for the occupants. And my own sources in Zaporizhia NPP, I received information that these were Rosatom employees, Rosatom personnel who coordinated the fire over the nuclear power plant territory, which is a huge danger, although they try not to target crucial objects. Then in the report, you won't see a word deoccupation or demilitarization. No, but they actually wrote that you have to remove all the explosives, all the military vehicles, and all the soldiers, which make the personnel nervous, and you should remove this beyond the perimeter of the nuclear power plant, beyond the borders, which is called the technical or production area of the nuclear power plant. And this leaves a lot of room for diplomatic negotiations, further diplomatic negotiations. Ukraine also has started to introduce sanctions against those in Rosatom and other Russian nuclear sector leadership who allowed that to happen. It seems to me that Ukraine has to unite with the European Union and prevent construction of Russian nuclear power plant in Hungary. Recently, Finland denied construction of Russian nuclear power plant in Finland. The next one will be constructed in Hungary. And further nuclear power plant has to be built in Myanmar and some other countries. And what about Turkey? Turkey is an issue, although Russian leaders had denied participation in the Turkish nuclear power plant of a Turkish company, and perhaps Erdogan is not very happy about that. Yesterday, at the presentation of the report, all the countries were very skeptical about Russian position, and the United Kingdom had presented pictures showing how military vehicles are parked outside in the station, very close, in close vicinity to the units number 6 and 5. Actually, in 21st century, when the Convention anti-nuclear terrorism, the draft of which was prepared by the Russians, actually now they are violating each and every paragraph of that convention anti-nuclear terrorism. And I believe that Ukraine has to promote, support, and fight for withdrawal of the Russian military from the territory of nuclear power plant. And are you happy with the text? I believe that Mr. Gross's language was very plain, very diplomatic one. And as far as I know, Mr. Grossi election into his current position was very much supported by the United States, not by Russia. And also, the membership of the delegation was carefully selected, and there was very strict condition that the Russian citizens should not participate in the mission, and thus the membership of the mission was carefully selected, was authorized with proper mandate, and eventually produced a quality report. At this very moment, I'm dialing up Mr. Honchar, and he will... Mykhailo Honchar, what do you think about the IAEA mission to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant? Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Olga Kosharna made comprehensive analysis of both the report and debate which yesterday was carried out in the United Nations, where more than 56 countries participated. And I would only add to what Olga said. When I look at the IAEA report, I like most paragraph number 153. It says that the situation in Ukraine is unprecedented, which actually entails a new way of action, or production of a new vision how the problem could be solved, because this is unprecedented situation in the history of the nuclear energy sector development. This report contains a lot of details, and what we do not see in this report, and actually we did not expect to see that, but actually it suggests that now it's turn of the UN to make a move, and perhaps the United Nations would not be able to act properly because of the Russia's position in the Security Council. As for the perception of the IAEA report in Russia, we may say that the mission has seen confirmation to the shellings which put this nuclear object under big risk. And this was the only statement which Rosatom CEO made about this report of International Atomic Energy Agency. What I like about the report, the report actually quite directly points out to Rosatom as an organization which unlawfully interfered into the activity of the station, into the operations of the station, and this opens further way for the work and comments of international organizations. Actually, Rosatom has stepped beyond its competencies when interfering into the routine operation of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And currently Rosatom actually is used as the Kremlin weapons. And keeping in mind all those nuclear objects which Rosatom has beyond the borders of Russia in its possession in other countries, this role which Rosatom is forced to play, it creates big threats for Rosatom. Olga properly mentioned, correctly mentioned Finland, which denied construction of Russian nuclear power plant in its territory. This may happen in other countries. Actually, this report is presenting Rosatom as a political force through which Russian Federation is implementing its political course in the occupied power plant in Ukraine. Simultaneously, we observe how Russia steers up its actions along other front lines, additionally to the military front line. Here, I mean the gas blackmail, then very transparent threats to the grain agreement, and this nuclear blackmail. I believe that the report, which was published quite recently, we have not passed yet via the highest point in discussion around this report, and when we think about demilitarized area around nuclear power plant, and when we discuss a possibility of any mission to be present at the plant, this brings us back to what the report actually says, that the nuclear power plant has to be demilitarized. It has to be brought back under control of Ukrainian Energoatom. And without such a demilitarization, the problem would not be solved. On the other hand, we clearly see that as of now, this sort of required demilitarization may not happen. We cannot expect that this will happen very soon. We see how Russian Federation points out to Ukraine that Ukraine is to be blamed in the shellings. In this situation, it seems to me that United Nations should send a special mission additionally to the IAEA agency to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This won't be a true peacekeeping mission, but there should be a special UN mission which would observe the implementation of demilitarization of nuclear power plant. The mission may be equipped with anti-battery sensors and observers, and also the nuclear power plant should contain the anti-air defense forces and anti-air defense radars, and that equipment would clearly register the source of shelling and will show the coordinates. And because what the Russian Federation blames Ukraine in shellings, you can only claim that the shell is in a position which is not possible for Ukrainian shells to take when they target the ground in nuclear power plant. But that is what Russia ignores. I believe that this scenario with special UN mission to control the power plant, of course, in this situation, this may be only a big wish. On the other hand, further on, we will see whether UN is capable or incapable to do what it has to do. Of course, we all want that the mission of IAEA would not limit itself with just production of a report. It may initiate imposing of sanctions on Rosatom. Some days ago, I published my article in Zerkalo Tizhnya newspaper describing what measures are available for the International Atomic Energy Agency to impose sanctions on Rosatom. It seems to me that we should present all these opportunities to our foreign partners, to the international community. In order to do this, we have to establish contacts with the European Union, very close contacts, because this is not the war just in Ukraine. This is the war in Europe. And while Ukraine is a hot front line of this war, but Europe had become the energy front line in this war. And in my opinion, Europe gradually is coming to understanding that they had become the energy targets of Russia. And we clearly see the signs that current behavior of Russian Federation in the area of gas supplies clearly demonstrated to the EU that Russia is using energy sources as a weapon and blackmailing the entire Europe. And the same they are doing in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And they should take very strong measures. I mean, the European Union can take very strong measures to demonstrate to Russia that they are able to cope with them. Thank you, Mykhailo. Thank you for joining our press conference. Later, maybe the questions may arise. Volodymyr, my question now is to you. How do you see the answer to such a question? What could be done to make the nuclear power plant safe under military conditions? The same question you may hear in the parliament, in the expert community, and among ordinary people. Quite recently, the White House has made a statement that for safety and security of Ukraine, all the units in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant should be better brought out of operation. What would you respond to such comments? Thank you, Victoria. Actually, there is no need for me to interpret anything because there is a clear legislation on the matter. And this law leaves no room for interpretation, actually. It has very clear prescriptions, I mean the law on the nuclear safety. And it does not provide any space for interpretation, actually. This law, nuclear safety, clearly states that from the moment when the risk happens to the physical integrity of a reactor, you should immediately bring it out into the cold regime. And this so-called cold regime is believed to be the most safe mode for the nuclear power plant. Also, I think that we had to do that from the very, very beginning. This was not done because of the doubts whether there would be enough energy for the for other systems of the nuclear power plant. But the energy supply for the energy supplied for these auxiliary systems in nuclear power plant bring the energy sources not from the nuclear reactor, but from other sources. Actually, currently, we're making experiments in this nuclear power plant, and that is what Mr. Kotin, chairman of the board of Energatom, mentioned today. He said that we have diesel generators operational for another 10 days, and we have problems with logistics supplying diesel fuel for that diesel generators, which ensure proper operation of the ancillary systems of nuclear power plant. And we cannot put nuclear units in a cold regime, also because of the threat that Russia may switch them over to Russian energy system. All the experts know that it is not possible to do in the cold mode. You almost cannot do that. Can you describe the situation with the turbine in the 6 units? Sorry for interrupting you. Actually, the turbines are working now in the extraordinary mode, and usually they are supplied with energy from the nuclear unit itself, but currently they are operating with an energy which is not supplied from nuclear unit, and nobody knows what may happen in result of this extraordinary situation. And also, I would like to add something about security. I think Mr. Grossi correctly stated in his report that safety area should be created. Unfortunately, all the countries, European countries, Grossi, Ukraine, their understanding of safety area is very much different from what the Russians believe is a safety area. I would like to demonstrate you one document. This is the document produced by International Atomic Energy Agency, and it is the document which is of more higher level than the report produced by Mr. Grossi. This document is produced by the IAEA board, which comprises 35 member countries. So the document is dated March 4th, 2022. I'm reading it in Russian because it was produced in 2 languages, the Russian and English. This resolution taken at the session of IAEA on March 3rd, 2022. In result of actions of Russian Federation in Ukraine included the forced conquest of nuclear installations and nuclear materials, which creates a threat to the physical integrity of that installations and personnel working in it. The risks of nuclear accident has grown considerably. Actually, this document, which is of a higher level than the report which we are discussing today, it clearly says that the Russian Federation is responsible for the invasion of the nuclear power plant. The second paragraph, the IAEA board encourages Russia to stop immediately all its activities committed either in Chernobyl nuclear power plant or in any other nuclear power plants in Ukraine, and to surrender control over that nuclear power plants to Ukrainian authorities and to ensure safe operation of those nuclear power plants, and that the IAEA control should be immediately restored. Our president requested that IAEA should demand Zaporizhia NPP to be withdrawn from Russian control and transferred to Ukrainian control, while he did not know that the document already exists. The document is here. It was passed in early March by the board of International Atomic Energy Agency with the 35 participating countries. Then later this year, the Council of the Board of IAEA will take place. I believe that Ukraine should not waste this opportunity and clearly state what is meant under the safety area term. Actually, this is a good chance that this board meeting will confirm that once again, and then the General Conference of International Atomic Energy Agency will be held, and I believe that Ukrainian diplomats may contribute to the repeal of Russia as a member with the right to vote. And my last comment. Today we witness unprecedented moment in history, which nobody was able to imagine, that a member of the UN Security Council, a country which is a member of the International Atomic Energy Agency, would occupy a nuclear power plant and then use it for nuclear terrorism and blackmail. I believe that this is a proper time to create anti-terrorist nuclear center of a rapid response for the future. This center should put under control all the nuclear power plants which find themselves under risk of hostile occupation, terrorist actions, etc. In my opinion, this should be done today because Russia has given us a lesson, and we have to learn this lesson. and International Atomic Energy Agency has no other way out than to force Russia to withdraw from the nuclear power plant and to surrender the nuclear power plant. In case of failure to force Russia and in case of failure to regain control over the nuclear power plant, this will create very bad precedent for the future. And it seems to me that the major factor is that Ukrainian armed forces would move closer to the plant in offensive, and I do not believe that Russian bear would turn into a dove. Thank you, Volodymyr. Our experienced experts had pointed out to the most crucial moments, I believe, and I have only very minor things to add. The report, which we see produced by Mr. Grossi, is a good pretext, very good pretext to strengthen efforts of Ukraine and other countries and denounce Russia, the terrorist, the country who sponsors terrorism. We have a sufficient list of facts proved not only by Ukraine but international organizations, and we have to make this step. In case we manage to do this, then we will find ourselves in a world where Russia will be ostracized from the civilized world. And my second comment is that I haven't seen the word demilitarization in the report. We, of course, understand the role of pressure of the Russians on the NPP personnel. The conclusion about presence of military vehicles is also important. But I hoped that IAEA would clearly point out to the demilitarization, because any other measures like bringing UN forces into NPP, it can happen only upon demilitarization of Russian troops from the nuclear power plant. Russia keeps saying that they provide safety for the nuclear power plant and they defend it. And another thing which I would like to see, I've been to Energodar and to nuclear power plant many times. I can easily imagine how do people feel, both the personnel of NPP who stay in the plant and their families who live in a city without proper electricity supply, water supply, whose children cannot attend schools. Actually, the NPP personnel are heroes, and they risk with the well-being of their families. and we have to convince the occupants to allow women and children to be evacuated. I believe that the Ukrainian government should organize evacuation of families from Energodar, especially in the view of ongoing winter. The third, we see neither statements nor any motions from Ukrainian government related to the nuclear fuel. Why we do not hear about broader use of Westinghouse nuclear fuels, and it seems to me that this is the right moment to raise this issue in the parliament. And Olga is familiar with the whole list of the old and obsolete contracts, agreements, which have to be repealed in the light of Russian aggression. And last but not least, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant generated 25% of energy for Ukraine. And the stoppage of that NPP will be a sensible blow on Ukraine. And in result of that stoppage, we will be not an exporter but an importer of energy, and we have to become prepared for that. We have to introduce the schedules for energy consumption, to think how to reduce energy consumption, and we should not wait for the moment when this will come. The moment will come, but we have to. And I have seen that our regulator plans to shut down Zaporizhia nuclear power plant eventually. I am a member of the expert community which discusses cooperation between Ukraine and Russia in nuclear area, and there is a long list of documents which were signed jointly by Rosatom and Ukraine in the area of nuclear energy. We have to repeal them all. We won't buy Russian nuclear fuel anymore. That is what Putin said back in March. But in order to do that, we have to make necessary steps. The international agreement between Ukraine and Russia, there was an agreement about consultations provided by Rosatom to Ukrainian nuclear specialists. They cynically stated that they acted on the framework of that agreement. I mean that we have to update our legal basis of international contracts, which we had with Russia in peaceful times. And Ukraine introduced its sanctions against Rosatom CO only in summer, while we had to be pioneers. We have storage of nuclear fuel. We have a contract with the Westinghouse for the emergency fuel supplies. We have nuclear units which are prepared for the nuclear assemblies from Westinghouse to arrive, and we have to do our homework here. Thank you. The topic is quite important. Thank you for attending this event, and thank you for watching us. In my opinion, we have to be sure that we are able to overcome this crisis. We have to cooperate with the international community and to use more broadly the documents which are already available for us. And we should not expect that Russia will voluntarily surrender their power plant and quit it. They are actually terrorists, and it is in the nature of a terrorist to intimidate the victims, and the more success or non-successes they have at the front line, they will continue to make this pressure psychologically, physically, informationally, etc. I think there is no other way out for international community to throw out Russians from the nuclear power plant and to leave it forever. In my opinion, the international community cannot afford to allow this nuclear blackmail to continue and to create this terrible precedent in the human history. Thank you for coming.